Welcome to Flavor Files. This is the radio show and podcast where we talk about food and drink and just try to have fun and attach everything to our culture. And that really applies to this show. I'm Jerry Agar, broadcaster, and my son Tanner Agar is a restaurateur, bartender, and chef. And we're doing a patriotic weekend as we anticipate the 1st of July, Canada Day, and the 4th of July, Independence Day, in the United States. We start, as always, with Tanner having an amuse-booze, and I guess your drink this week would depend on which country you were in when you're drinking it.
The good news is with this cocktail, shall we call it, is you can make it, and if you're American, there's only just one more step. So it's very easing. We are making Jell-O shots. Jell-O shots are still fun. They're still cool. Yes, they are. Maybe you feel stupid being like, am I really going to do a Jell-O shot? Yes. Yeah. Because people who've done Jell-O shots before think they're fun. And it's a nostalgic thing to bring back. I mean, here in the U.S., we're celebrating 250 years of the United States. Why not bring back other things? Jell-O was big over the last century. Okay, so here's what you do for your Jell-O shot. Okay. So you're going to make like raspberry, strawberry Jell-O. And then you're going to take little tiny cups. What I do is I like to buy like 2-ounce sauce cups. You can buy these at every restaurant depot. You can buy them online. It's a 2-ounce cup where you get sauce like when you go to go. So you're going to take that. You're going to take your red Jell-O and you're going to pour about a third full. And then you're going to put that in the fridge and that's going to set while you make up your white Jell-O. And then that's like a cream Jell-O. Lots of times it has like sweetened condensed milk in it. That gives it the white color. So after the red sets, you can then pour the white on top of the red. And if you're in Canada, go 50-50 and you'll have red and white. If you're in America, you go a third red, a third white, and then you make like a blueberry Jell-O, and then you pour that on top. So by the way, setting Jell-O can take like several hours. So you do need to be planning ahead. Fortunately, we're releasing this episode ahead of the 4th. So ahead of the 1st. Right. So you have plenty of time to make Jell-O. You do need to make sure you have fridge space for this activity. But you make them, you stack them all up, and then when you're serving them, you should get clear. Make sure your containers are clear. You hand them to people. You can see perfectly the different layers. And then you take them to your pool party. You take them to your grill out, and you just pass them out, and people have a great old time. But I should mention, when you're making it, substitute half the water in the recipe for vodka, because otherwise you're just eating Jell-O, and that wouldn't be an amuse-booze. That's just an amuse.
Well, you could make some of both so that you could give some to the kids, you know.
Yeah, I suppose.
Just remember which is which.
Yeah, you should label them appropriately, right? Or do something maybe like you could swap the layers, like red on top is adults only. Red means stop. Right, where white on top is safe for kids.
All right, okay. Let's talk about then the number one thing that would come to mind when you're going to do some kind of a party. You're going to have a backyard party, or you've rented a park or whatever you're doing. You're putting some people together. First thing has to be what you do with the meat.
The bigger your party is, the simpler your meat plan should be. And I've said this, I feel like a million times on the show, this is not the day to try something new. This is not the first day for you to say, I think we should do ribs when we have 60 people over. Have you cooked ribs? Have you cooked it for 60 people before? Then this is not the time for you to try something new. This is the time for you to rely on what you know how to do. And if what you know how to do is hot dogs, that's fine. There's nothing wrong with setting up a hot dog bar. Where you can really add on to it is you can be amazing in the condiment game. You can, really focus on, I'm just making dogs, I'm just making buns. This is going to be simple, but I'm going to have really cool toppings on there. If you're looking, by the way, for really cool out there topping ideas, I'm not going to get into it today, but if you hit up Spotify, Apple, our website, flavorfiles.com, we have an entire episode dedicated to the hot dog, and there's a whole segment there where we talk about hot dogs from around the world. So that would be a cool thing to set up, like a condiment bar. Then you look like you did something cool, and you actually only heated up hot dogs. Very easy, and that's the secret to making sure your patriotic weekend goes well.
Well, the second easiest then would be the hamburger?
Hamburger's pretty easy. Some people a lot of people, if they were recording the show, are going to say you're making your burger and you're going to add egg or you're going to add breadcrumbs to bind the meat together. This is not something that's necessary to do. You see it everywhere. You do not need to do this. You know what's a great binder? Salt. Just use salt. Take good meat. Yeah, salt will actually bind your meat together just fine. And if you don't believe me because you've tested your binders, you can write to me. However, I sell burgers by the bucketfuls at my restaurants, and I'm telling you, my ingredients are local Texas Wagyu and salt. End of list. And if it works for me, it will work for you.
Okay, so how much salt then?
I know it's hard to say enough. This is what chefs are always, guilty of. My little brother Cooper likes to text me, "Hey, how long should I cook this?" And I go, when it's done. Thank you. That was incredibly helpful. I get that that's helpful. But just put in what feels like a normal amount of salt for however much meat you have. Right? If you've cooked before, if you're listening to the show, just add some salt. Add maybe a little more than you might think. But the other thing that it does is it helps the meat hold together and it seasons your burger throughout. One thing that I really hate is when you get burgers that are clearly like pre-portioned burgers and people just salt and pepper the outside. That's fine on a smash burger because it's so thin. But if you're going to do big pub-style burgers, you now have no seasoning inside the meat. This is one of the reasons, by the way, lots of times when you go to a restaurant and you get a nice thick piece of steak, they've sliced it for you. One is the convenience, and two, it's because then they can actually add salt to the inside. So the meat tastes more flavorful to you because they've been able to add the salt. So with your burger, you add the salt. It's seasoned throughout. It'll hold together just fine.
All right, let's talk about chicken, though. First of all, would you do breasts, would you do thighs, or would you do both?
I'm a thigh guy. I love thighs. Chicken breast is a great food for when you want to lose weight. But when you want to have fun, you should be eating the chicken thigh. The dark meat is richer, it's fattier, it's just more flavorful. Chicken breast is not an exciting food. I don't wake up in the morning looking forward to a chicken breast. But chicken thighs are amazing. And if you're going to grill these, really the thing that I think is best, listeners might remember, I do own a restaurant with a wood-fired grill. We cook over wood every single day. And what we do is we take our chicken thighs, we're going to brine them. So we're putting them, for us, it's peppercini brine. So we buy a big thing of pepperoncinis, we pour out the liquid, and then we stuff the chicken in there. It pulls in some of the spice, it pulls in some of the salt, pulls in some of the acidity. Then we're actually going to sous vide it. So when you come to my restaurant to get chicken thigh, you order it, it's already been cooked via sous vide. Then we're going to throw it on that super hot grill. What that's going to allow us to do is make the skin crispy without us having to worry about it burning. I can cook at high heat, I can crisp the skin, I'm warming it through. And if you cook it in advance, I talk all the time about prep and then service. I can be stressed about my party the day before. And by stressed, I mean putting it in sous vide is as difficult as putting it in a Ziploc, dunking it in some water, and then going and watching TV while the magic of sous vide occurs, right? Then on party day, you don't have to worry about raw chicken. You don't have to worry about dry chicken. You just pop those puppies down. When they feel warm to the touch, you're done. And again, this should be simple, especially if you have a lot of people coming.
All right. Now, what about chicken wings? How do you do those?
Wings, the way that we do them at our restaurant is the same exact way. So I would take the chicken, I want to cook it in advance. What I really like to do with wings, especially because they're not as fatty, is if you buy a bunch of chicken fat, and I know that this is like a whole nother step, but you take the chicken fat, you're going to put that in a big pan, and it's called confit. Confit means to cook in its own fat. So you pour chicken fat over the chicken, you wrap the pan with foil, you bake it, so then what's going to happen is the chicken's going to cook totally through while submerged under its own fat, so it's going to stay really nice and juicy. But again, you're cooking it through. Then, if you're going to fry them, you're just dropping them in the fryer just to make them crispy. If you're going to bake them off, whatever it is you're going to do to make them crispy, they're already cooked through. So you don't have to worry about having raw chicken, which, especially with wings, is very gross. And so you'd be completely fine doing them that way.
Okay, now there are other things that are great at a backyard party, like I'll give two so we can handle this before we finish the segment here, and one would be brisket and one would be fish, and I'm guessing, unless you're already really, really good at doing brisket and really, really good and attentive with fish, you shouldn't even be considering that for your patriotic weekend.
I would not be considering it exactly unless you know, right? But it's kind of like people talk about, I want to get my summer body ready. And summer body is something you need to be working on in the fall and the winter. Summer brisket is something you should be practicing in the fall and the winter, right? You need to have had 6 Saturdays where you're going to do a brisket if you're going to be ready to do it on Patriotic weekend. You have to be ready for your brisket because there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. The trimming, we should do a whole episode just on barbecue so we can kind of, because I feel like it comes up a lot. We'll do that in the future. And then seafood. Seafood is just temperamental. It's temperamental. It can be difficult. Now, maybe you're a person who loves to do a big crawfish boil. Or maybe you're a person who wants to set out like an oyster bar, right? I have joked actually with Grace about us opening a bar called Go Shuck Yourself. And it's just a place where we load oysters in a pail and hand it to you with an oyster knife. You could do that. That would be a cool way to do seafood. Right? Raw seafood with ice, something that you could keep going like that. But don't come out here thinking I'm going to make scallops for everybody on the grill. That is a really good way to spend a ton of money and be disappointed. And if you wanted to do that, you could just go on the average date with people here in Dallas.
By the way, if you opened that bar, I'm surprised there isn't one called that already. And secondarily, that's a great way for you to have a customer a day stab themselves in the hand, and you have to deal with it. So you might want to think about that.
I think what we would save money on kitchen labor, but we would spend all of it on our permanent EMT staff. We'd have to keep circling the bar.
Tanner, we're going to take a look at the kinds of things you might have at your party that you might cook, overrated, underrated picnic and party foods. Is that what we're going to call this?
Yeah, these are the things we're going to let you know. Do you need to have this? Do you not need to have this? Beginning with potato salad. What do you think? Overrated or underrated potato salad?
I think it's, I don't know. I think it's just rated probably the number one thing you're going to have as a side.
So I don't have a problem with potato salad. I do find calling it salad a bit generous. It's carbs covered in mayonnaise. And if that passes as a salad, then they've got a whole lot of the diet industry that needs to be reworked. But I like a potato salad, but it needs to be heavily seasoned. Sometimes it's just mayonnaise and potatoes, and that's nasty. You need to have like something in there. You need to have like some kind of dressing that gives it a little bit of spice, a little bit of character. A well-seasoned potato salad, underrated, but pretty much every potato salad I ever eat is overrated.
Okay, but you're not talking about just salt and pepper.
No. I mean, throw some herbs in there, throw some mustard in there, throw something in there that makes me think, oh, what is that? That's what makes a really good potato salad. You're basically just throwing in boiled potatoes and mayonnaise, you should have just skipped it and made mashed potatoes, because mashed potatoes could never, ever be overrated. No vegetable is working harder to be appreciated than the potato, and the mashed potato and vodka are its two ultimate lifestyles that it lives. When I grow up, I want to be a potato that becomes mashed potato.
I'll be the potato that becomes the vodka then, and there you go. Okay, what about pasta salad?
Pasta salad, we've said before when we were talking about like camping that it's a really great option because it's something you can make in advance, you can bring, and that can be good. I like a pasta salad. Pasta salad I find is best when, again, you're doing something with it that's kind of interesting or unique. I like to make sort of Greek-style ones maybe where it's like, here's some pepper, here's a lot of oregano, here's black olives, here's feta cheese. Something where I feel like I'm really having sort of this like antipasta kind of thing. It's also great because it can be outside for a while. Cheese, pickled peppers, olives, sun-dried tomatoes, these are all foods that hold at room temperature, so they're going to hold better when it's outside on a spread in the middle of July.
Coleslaw.
I do not like coleslaw.
No?
I hate coleslaw. I never, ever eat it. If it comes on something, I ask for it on the side. I just do not like it. I do not want it.
I think in a previous episode of Flavor Files, we disagreed on baked beans because I love them.
Yeah, if I wanted to coat something in sugar, I would pick something more delicious than a bean. I like beans fine. I have no issue with them, but I don't like them when they're covered in brown sugar and molasses. It's something I can just pass, especially because I have yet, and I've made a career out of eating and serving food. I have never in my entire life had a homemade baked bean. It's always been a canned product. So maybe there's a baked bean out there worth loving, but I haven't met it so far.
Oh, well, this one nobody argues with. You can't overrate corn on the cob.
No, I mean, it's the classic summer food. Corn on the cob is essential to any outdoor barbecue. A great way to make this, by the way, is to actually boil your corn first and then hit it on the grill. That way you can soften the corn, use the grill to char it and give it a roast. That way you're not eating like raw corn, which is fine, but it's not going to be as sweet. You need to cook it first so that you can get some of that sugar to really come out.
So it's another one of those things you prep before the party even starts then.
Yes, exactly. Man, it's like you've been listening to Flavor Files. You prep your food, then you like finish the food. It's 2 steps, and it always works better.
Mac and cheese?
If you go back and listen to Thanksgiving episode from last year, or if you're 6 months from now and you're listening to the episode for Thanksgiving this year, I'm going to tell you, mac and cheese is an essential item, and it has to be trusted to a trustworthy person. Mac and cheese, you should never have a sign-up sheet for mac and cheese. If you're going to do like a potluck situation, you should purposely call the person bringing the mac and cheese and say, hey, I trust you with mac and cheese. Could you do the mac and cheese? Do not let any random person make the mac and cheese. Because again, we said brisket's not a food for your very first time. Neither is mac and cheese. Mac and cheese is too important. It's too vital to be trusted to somebody who's 17 and trying to establish their adulthood. No, I'm sorry. You haven't graduated to mac and cheese yet. You can focus on the pasta salad.
Or could you say this to the 17-year-old who, thank God they want to participate? How about you do the veggie tray?
Veggie tray. Yeah, fantastic. It is the most bought and least eaten item on every barbecue day. There's nothing wrong with it, but have you ever seen a veggie tray be finished?
No, because people are too busy with all the things we just mentioned before. Now, you might finish a fruit tray.
You might finish a fruit tray, but I feel like they're the same thing. And in this way, I'm going to claim that fruit tray, veggie tray, overrated. Because if they were underrated, they'd be gone. But I feel like so many times, you're doing the barbecue, you're doing the big picnic, and then you get there. We've had this before, like our company party. I'm standing there at the end going, so what should I do with all this celery and carrots? You know what I never have extra of? Pulled chicken. I never have extra of that. I never have extra beer. I only ever have extra raw vegetables.
Okay, but what about this, though? Never mind the fruit combinations, just by itself, sliced up, already ready to go, maybe even just in chunks, a bowl full of chunks of watermelon.
Watermelon is a fabulous food. Watermelon's a great food. Another one where you can elevate your watermelon so easily, just a little bit of salt. I mean, especially if you've got kids and they're going to be running around. I remember one time, my mom, I don't know why we had all these watermelons at the house, but she decided she was going to show up after football practice. We had this set up where we were on the football field and then we walked through the parking lot, and that's where the locker room is. And my mom just stood there in the parking lot with a whole bunch of salted watermelon. And I'm not a kid who is known for being cool in the, football community, probably because I was already too established with the musical theater community, and there wasn't the Venn diagram of those two communities is not huge. And so but yeah, we just had this giant bowl of watermelon. When you are hot and sweaty, some salted watermelon is a perfect food. Now, you throw a little bit of mint on there so it's nice and fresh. Oh, what an amazing food to have.
Okay, maybe I should have tied this question more closely to the veggie tray. What about roasted vegetables?
Roasted vegetables, it's nice if you're a person who cares about kind of having like a little bit more balanced diet. My issue with the roasted vegetables is the way most people do them at a barbecue is they make a kebab and then they take a bunch of foods that cook in different ways, in different temps, and then they just skewer them all together and put it on. So what I end up having is some vegetables that have been cooked and have died, and then I have other things like the onion, which is like still raw. So I have to eat a sad piece of squash next to an okay pepper, next to raw onions. So now I've got onion breath, and now I'm having to worry about that problem. So I love roast veggies, but I would just really appreciate if you cook your vegetables separately, and then you can have all good vegetables brought together at the end, instead of sort of the hack of cooking them all together so that everything's not ideal.
Okay, so one more here for any kind of backyard barbecue for Canada Day or Independence Day in the U.S., and that is overrated or underrated, the deviled egg.
It's so overrated. I think I eat a single egg's worth of deviled eggs a year. I see it and I go, there it is. It's Easter and I think I'll have one. And then every time I eat one, it's almost how I feel like, you know, those little like Necco hearts at Valentine's Day that have the little message on it, you know, like I love you. Right. Yeah. I feel the same way about candy corn. It's like the year has come around. I'm going to have one. There was my deviled egg of the year. I'm good. I don't, if I never ate another deviled egg again, and this is coming from an egg passionate person, okay? I am very egg positive, but I do not need to eat a deviled egg again in my life. Here on Flavor Files, we are talking all about the perfect way to set up your patriotic weekend for either Canada Day or the 4th of July, depending on which one you celebrate, unless you're like me, in which case you're going to celebrate both of them by having a whole batch of Nanaimo bars to yourself, and then turning immediately around and going, well, I have to eat American desserts now. So it's the fattest week of the year in my household, and we're going to talk about some of the desserts. And the big question is, if you're thinking about desserts for your patriotic barbecue weekend, what you need to be thinking is, will it melt? Especially, I mean, if your party's inside, I guess this doesn't really matter. But we're talking about being outside, grilling out, kids are running around, having a great time. Will it melt? This is your most important question. And if you're going to be outside, will it melt? Do not serve it. That's the easiest way. Segment over. We'll see you guys later.
Okay, but there's some stuff that maybe it doesn't melt specifically the way you think of, say, ice cream would be the obvious one. But there are things that you might put out there that just quite frankly over time don't do well under the sun. Some of the fruit might come under that category. Fruit
can definitely come under that category, right? Chocolate chip cookies are a perfect example. Okay. Warm chocolate chip cookies are good because they're gooey and they're fun, but like sun-baked, messy, everywhere cookie. And now, I don't have kids, but there's a lot of kids anytime. I have a lot of family with kids. Yeah. And I don't trust very melty chocolate to children. So I would also kind of, maybe would it melt, and can the recipient of the dessert manage the meltiness, right? You're going to be okay. I'll give you a melty cookie, Jerry. I mean, you're at an age where you can be trusted with a melty cookie. Presley, on the other hand, hasn't started kindergarten yet. She can't be trusted with a melty cookie.
What about the Rice Krispie treat? Will that actually soften up and be too icky?
It should be okay. I mean, but a Rice Krispie treat is already a sticky food. So it's going to get a little warm. It's going to be a little sticky. But a Rice Krispie treat is an awesome example of something where, okay, but I want to have a sweet. I want to be able to do something out here, right? So other things that really go well like that are things like pies and cobblers, right? Because while the inside of a pie, depending on if it gets hot enough, could start to run, in theory, right, I'm making a blueberry pie, I'm making an apple pie, the pectin in the fruit is going to set and it's going to hold. That's a really important part of why when you cut a pie, it doesn't just run everywhere, is it's actually the pectin in the fruit that holds it together. And so those foods can last outside. So it's much easier to take something like a berry pie, put it on a table and walk away versus doing something like that. And the fruit will be fine. The fruit's already cooked. It'll be okay. But also, you know, if you're wanting to do more like fresh berries, you can easily do something like a pound cake, which is not going to go bad. Pound cake, by the way, is called that because traditionally what I've heard is the ingredient would be get a pound of flour, get a pound of butter, and that's kind of how it came. That's also why it's quite dense, is because of how it's cooked. But that's a different topic. But even that with fresh berries, which are a little bit of cream kept on ice, can all be good.
All right. Now, some fruits, like we talked just a few minutes ago on the show about the popularity of watermelon, how fantastic it is. I don't know if you get it all cut up, how long it lasts under the sun, but maybe it's not a problem because it never really lasts that long anyway at a party.
It doesn't last that long. People want to dive right in, right? It's sweet. It's juicy. Like I said, I love to put salt on it. So you can serve that. I mean, fruit is considered a dessert in many places. It's not as popular over here as a fruit because we prefer, chocolate, refined sugar, things like that. Yeah. But you can absolutely serve it as that, and it's great, especially the ones that are, really of the summer. Those ones always taste the best.
Okay, well, obviously there are things that will it melt that come immediately to mind, and ice cream and chocolate would be two of those things. You talked about the cookie, but I don't want to maybe do a backyard party of any size without ice cream. The kids are going to go crazy if you bring them some ice cream, but that's kind of a bring it out of the house and serve it thing, isn't it?
If you can bring it out of the house, obviously that's ideal. It's in your freezer. It's going to be perfectly fine. You know, what I've always found goes well over with kids is, do you remember those ones that's like a little plastic cup of like pretty low grade ice cream actually? It's this little cup, and then, you know, it comes with a little wooden spoon.
Yeah.
Yeah, kids lose their mind for that stuff. It's really easy. However, we just did an episode about like going into the wild and talking about camping and car camping and everything. I can't believe I didn't say this. When we were doing show prep, I realized I should have. Dry ice could really be your friend here. If you're renting out a park, or if you're going to be, you know, out at a cabin or a cottage or something like that, dry ice is amazing. Dry ice doesn't melt, it sublimates. So sublimation is when it moves straight from a solid to a gas. It skips the liquid stage. So packing dry ice, it's going to last longer than regular ice. And you can't get, I'm sure you've had this problem where you open up the cooler and everything in your cooler is now bobbing around like a sad mini version of the Titanic.
Yeah.
So the dry ice won't do that. Now you have to be aware, dry ice can freeze solid whatever you put right on top of it. So you want to pack your cooler appropriately. But you could literally take a good insulated cooler, like a Yeti style cooler. We have literally done this. When I went to the James Beard House in New York, they flew me there to cook. We took a Yeti cooler, dry ice on the bottom, frozen items on top of that, refrigerated items on top of the items we wanted frozen. I checked that bag, showed up in New York City, and everything was in perfect condition. So if it can handle American Airlines, it can handle a trip in your Toyota. And you're going to end up like really keeping everything tight, clean, and tidy. You just have to be aware dry ice is dangerous. You don't want to seal it. You want it to be able to like have some way to off gas so it doesn't blow up, and you should not let your kids touch it.
Okay, so then does your cooler have to sort of breathe?
Yeah, but basically, as long as you're able to, if you're naturally just opening it and closing it, that's going to be totally fine. This is not like a 5 minutes in, it's going to blow up. You can just open the cooler, let it off gas a little, you know, like just, but naturally, right? If I'm cooking, I've got my dry ice, I've got my ice cream on top of that, but then I'm making hot dogs for everybody and I'm pulling out a cheese and I'm pulling out some fruit or I'm pulling out something. Just opening that, boom, all of a sudden you're fine. I have never had it explode on me. And I've played with dry ice a lot of times.
Did you tell American Airlines that's what they were checking?
Oh, yeah, you have to tell them. It's actually, you can fly dry ice. You can't fly wet ice, apparently. And I know this because Southwest Airlines one time had me open a cooler when I was going to a different event, and they were like, you need to get rid of all of this.
Wow.
And so that caused some complications for me. But yes, apparently dry ice is safe to fly, but not wet ice. I'm not really sure why.
Okay, one more thing on that. I don't know where to get it.
Dry ice, you can get dry ice at grocery stores. Lots of grocery stores. They tend to be, like, I've seen them in a Kroger, Central Market, Whole Foods. I've seen them there. I would kind of think like a little bit nicer grocery stores. But if you call around, you might be surprised. Lots of them will have like a little chest. It's originally, I thought it was going to be a hard thing to get a hold of, but it's really not. If you just call a few grocery stores, you can track one down.
Have you ever had any trouble with dry ice?
I haven't had trouble with it. I mean, you can burn yourself with it, so you have to be aware because it's so cold that it will burn you. Now, officially, I am not going to tell you the next thing, but there's a trick you can do with dry ice, and it is not smart, and it is dangerous, and officially, I do not recommend this at all. However, if you take chips of dry ice and put them in your mouth, you need to keep it moving like crazy. Like your tongue needs to be constantly stirring the ice so that it's connecting with different parts of your mouth, which are going to get cold but not burn because of how quickly you're moving the ice. Then what you can do is you can exhale and your mouth will be so cold, it'll look like you're a fire-breathing dragon blowing out smoke. And then if you practice, which I do not recommend, officially do not recommend, you can actually draw the smoke in and then exhale it out of your nose. So while I don't recommend anybody do this, it is incredibly fun to blow dry ice smoke out of your nose. And it's a great way to impress kids at risk of great personal injury. But whatever you do, Whenever you're not doing this, the thing you should most not do is swallow it. Because if you swallow it, your stomach acid will immediately attack it. It will sublimate like crazy, and basically you have to burp fast enough for your stomach not to explode.
I see. I can see a day in the future when someone says, don't ever invite Uncle Tanner to the party again.
I look forward to having a reputation for being so fun. Now we're going to talk about the bar. I'm Tanner. I'm with Jerry. I am a Michelin recognized bartender. James Beard recognized. I'm going to tell you how to serve drinks all day long and have drinks be fun without the drinks becoming the problem. Because we've all been there. We've all had that conversation with somebody going, hey, you can't drive. You need to give me your keys. I have certainly been a part of this, having people in my bar telling me they could drive, or just socially. I can recall one time at somebody else's house where an overserved guest was trying to drive, and then the host was hanging on the hood of their car to try to get them not to drive. And to help you avoid all of that, there's some really perfect, easy tips to make. The first is whatever you serve should be low ABV, low alcohol content. Mardi Gras is a very famous festival in New Orleans. It's famous for drinking all day long. And when I talk to my friends in New Orleans and say, how do you survive? They say the solution is light beer. Because you get the fun of drinking all day, but when you drink something that's only 4.5% alcohol, that means almost it's water. And that's helping counteract the effect. If you show up to your outdoor barbecue and you just have bottles of alcohol out there, maybe you can trust the people. But if you're worried about not being able to trust them, if you put out bottles of alcohol, people will do shots and they'll drink straight liquor and they're going to get drunk really quickly. If you prep cocktails and you purposely make them a little bit watered down, then people are going to drink all day. Oh, I've had 6 drinks. I need to stop. Fine.
Okay. I love the old fashioned, and I have, and it was you that gave me the tip to do this, where I actually poured all of the whiskey out of the bottle into a bowl and then extrapolated what I needed with the other ingredients to make an old fashioned, and then most of it fit back in the bottle. I made up my own label to put on the bottle. Thankfully, not all of it fit in there, so I had an old fashioned before I went to the party, but it was very popular when I took it. But what you're saying is, maybe if I was having the party at home, I should cut back on the alcohol level, but a guy like me would be able to tell if that's what you did.
True. But one thing, I'm a huge proponent of using overproof spirits. We've talked about it on the show. Don't use a really strong 117 proof bourbon to make your old fashions with. Okay. Make it with 80. And then you can always add some water. You can add 10% water to your old fashioned and no one's going to know. By the way, if you're stirring an old fashioned and then pouring it over ice, you're going to add about 10 to 15% water anyway from the ice that's melting into the drink. So you can add the 10%, you can stretch it a little bit, and nobody's going to know. This is also a perfect opportunity to strategically run out. You can bring some old fashioned to the party, but don't bring so much old fashioned that's what everybody's drinking the whole time. Bring some old fashioned where they can enjoy one, they can have a nice time, and the old fashioned ran out because you're smart. You ran out because you know people are going to hit it too hard. And then try to transition them to something like, hey, maybe an Arnold Palmer that's spiked with a little bit of the bourbon. So you're getting lemonade and you're getting iced tea along with your bourbon. Long drinks, highball style drinks, things that have soda in them, things that have tonic, things that are juicy. These things are a really great way to stretch the drinking experience because the ritual of drinking, everybody wants to have a drink in their hand. That's part of being at the pool. That's part of being at the barbecue. So you allow them to have a drink in their hand without them becoming as easily intoxicated.
Okay, so what about the non-alcoholic version? Like, obviously, everybody can have soft drinks there. You've got a bunch of cans. You got Coke, you got Diet Coke, you got 7-Up, you got ginger ale, you got whatever. You've got it in a tub of ice or something. That's a fantastic thing to do. It serves the kids as well. I was at a backyard party just recently, and because I went to it and came home on my motorcycle, I didn't have any alcohol at all. But those are the choices. Is there something in between, something fun that's non-alcoholic?
There's plenty of options that are non-alcoholic. You know, you think about a Moscow Mule. What's great about it? Ginger beer, lime. These are things that are great about it. You can make a big batch of this. You could add a little bit of mint. You could add some berries. Berry mules are really popular. What it is you want to make a drink that feels intentional, that feels fun to drink, where people can be excited about it. Oh, this is really great. It's a punch. Where people go, I know that I'm drinking something non-alcoholic and I'm really enjoying it, right? What I want is the flavor. I've talked before about how if you buy certain types of teas and you cold steep them, they make great old fashions. This is a perfect example of my drink is interesting and unique and it's fun to drink it even though I'm not having alcohol. I mean, at my restaurants, we literally have non-alcoholic cocktails. They're the same thing we're making. We've just removed the spirit and tried to make it taste the same way. Sometimes it's just the flavor profile. Other times you can buy now non-alcoholic spirits. And if you've got a drunk Uncle Albert, this can be a nice little secret for slowing him down. Because if you make something that's a cocktail with non-alcoholic whiskey or tequila or gin, then he drinks it and goes, oh, these margaritas are great. Yep. And there's 0% alcohol because we know we can't trust Uncle Albert. I know somebody, I won't give him up on the show. I know somebody who has a relative who drinks too much wine. So they buy, I guess you can buy this low ABV wine. So instead of being like 12, 13%, they purposely go out and buy 5% wine because then they know this relative can drink twice as much of the wine without getting in trouble. And that's how they've slowed down this relative who doesn't know that that's happening.
And he hasn't figured it out.
Has not figured it out. Just sees a bottle get opened and poured and thinks, yeah, we're here to party. You go, yep, we're here to party half as much as you think we should. That's for sure.
All right. If the party's at your house, Tanner, no matter whether people serve themselves or you have somebody looking after serving the drinks, you're the one who's responsible if something bad happens when somebody's on the way home.
Absolutely. You are the person who's responsible. I mean, you serve them.
Yeah.
A lot of the ways it works in bars is if you get drunk in my bar, you leave, you cause a problem, I'm legally responsible for your behavior. So I don't know exactly how it works with a private party. Probably you wouldn't be convicted of this or something, but you do need to be aware. And if you're going to hire a bartender, rent a bartender to come out and work your event, please don't just dump the responsibility on that bartender to manage these people. You invited them. You know who to watch out for. You know who's a potential issue. And you need to just be aware of them and try to do things that are going to slow them down. Making water readily available and plentiful for everyone is helpful, even for the people that are not drinking. Water's going to be crazy. Look, if the FIFA players in the World Cup get to take a break for hydration, you should be able to take a break for hydration. Because I'm guessing the average listener is not in shape, is not in World Cup player shape. Okay? So make your water available, have other activities, have like distracting things that are going on from the bar to try to, help keep everybody on the level, but not totally in it. Have some games, have some snacks. This is a great time for that like kind of progressive dinner to help make sure that everybody stays on the level.
I think your point is well made, and I'm quibbling here, but that hydration break came in because they need to run more TV commercials, I think.
Never underestimate the power of FIFA to charge money.
That's the truest thing you've said in 37 episodes of this podcast radio show. Okay, so what's a shandy? You have it on your list.
A shandy is a great cocktail. It's beer plus lemonade. Or you could do other drinks. Like I like to do it with grapefruit, actually. So you take a light beer, you add a little bit of grapefruit. You could add like grapefruit soda. You have like Jarritos or Fresca or something like that. Basically, you're cutting your beer with something else. And most popular is going to be either sodas or lemonade. And I love it because, again, if I'm having a beer, I want full flavor. I want to feel like I'm drinking. But if I cut my beer that was already 5%, and I cut it 50% with sparkling lemonade, it's now 2.5%. Right. And as an overweight male, I can drink a lot of 2.5% beverage before I start to have a problem.
All right, so let's end with this then. You might have a problem. You probably know who might be a problem. Bars have people who are trained to try and look out for someone who's overserved. What are you going to do in your backyard party?
If you have a relative who you're worried of being overserved at a party, I have what's called the hammock test. So before you set up your party, you're going to hang a hammock. And when drunk Uncle Albert tells you he wants another drink, you say, of course, Uncle Albert, I just have one request to serve you more. Go get into that hammock and then get out of that hammock. And if you don't fall, you're sober enough to have another cocktail.
And we will make you do the test again. Okay, Canada Day coming up. Special shout out to our people in Detroit who listen to this show on CKLW in Windsor, by the way, or if you're online listening to us anywhere in North America. Have a great summer. Join us each week at this time on this radio station for Flavor Files, and all episodes are available at flavorfiles, PHILES.com.